I had a blood clot that Sunday morning.
She kept calling her name and she kept saying, "Help me."
That became our challenge in surgery to try and control that bleeding.
Your case was sufficiently complicated. Several teams were involved in your care, and there was quite a crowd of people trying to take care of you.
I told God, I said, "Hey, God, you can't do this to me. I can't take it."
He put you on a bypass pump, and that's what saved you.
You were one of those people that I was like, man, if we can get this lady back, she is going to be an amazing story.
We'd go in there 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to check on you, and you'd have a family member there for you, and I think that really helps somebody.
You never said no. You always had determination, always.
Your attitude and motivation played a huge role in your recovery.
I think that when people talk about and say miracles, and they look at me, and if there was ever any doubt in your mind about miracles, you're looking at a walking, living, breathing miracle. Well, hello, and thank you for joining me. You know, we never know what we're going to face in life. That is certainly true in my case. As I was going about my daily life, I suffered a major medical emergency back on August the 25th. I would spend the next 54 days in intensive care and rehab. On my journey to recovery, I had the support of my family, friends, and this wonderful community. I sat down with my colleague and good friend David Carroll to share exactly what happened that day back in August. I had a blood clot that Sunday morning. DC, I was getting ready for church, and the next thing I know, that I remember, I was on my kitchen floor, looking up, the ceiling was spinning. I was like, okay, I was trying to get my bearings, and thankfully my cell phone was right there, and I reached and I called my one of my very good friends, Deidre, and I said, Dee, I said, I'm not sure what's going on. I said, the room's spinning, and then after that, I'm not sure what else I said to her, but she kept me on the phone, and she called 911.
LaTrice called me that Sunday morning. We were getting ready for church. We had a program at our church involving our sorority, and when I got the call, I really couldn't understand what she was saying. I knew it was her because her name popped up on my phone, but she was saying, "Help me." And I didn't realize, I couldn't even make out what was going on. And I remember asking her again, I said, "LaTrice, is it LaTrice?" I just kept calling her name and she kept saying, "Help me."
Deidre said that she'd call 911. So I remember her telling me that in my ear. And I don't know how, but I remember I somehow managed to get from I couldn't walk, but I managed to somehow get to my door. I remember leaving the door open and unlocking it because I knew EMT would be there and I would maybe not be able to get up and open the door. You know, they could always bust it in, but I remember somehow I opened the door. And I remember somebody grabbing my hand and touching my face and saying, "LaTrice, LaTrice, stay with me." And then the next thing I remember, I'm in the ambulance. By that time, I remember the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes in the ambulance, and nothing else for probably over 3 weeks.
Within minutes, she was admitted to the hospital's critical care unit, and the news was not good. Doctors told LaTrice's friends she was the sickest patient in the hospital.
And seeing how really, really sick she was and knowing that we need to call her dad. And I remember that phone call, making that call to her dad, which was very hard, you know, but we knew that he needed to, he's in Nashville.
And she said, Mr. Currie, you need to get up here quick. LaTrice is real sick. We don't know what it is. We're rushing her to the hospital. This happened on Sunday, August the 25th. My wife had passed on Monday, August the 27th, the previous year. And I told God, I said, hey, God, you can't do this to me. I can't take it. So when we got in, they told us what had transpired, the condition that she was in, what they had already done, and it was just something that I couldn't fathom. And I started praying.
As the weeks went on and LaTrice regained consciousness, the presence of her dad made a huge difference in her recovery.
He was up and down that highway. He was in the hospital with me every day. And it was like clockwork. And the nurses said they could tell. They were like, LaTrice, you look for your dad every day. And if he was late, he would say, where's my dad? Almost like a child. Where's my dad? You know, and they were like, LaTrice, he's going to be here. You know, and they would even tell me one day he had to run an errand, but he said he's on his way. And just that sense of peace and of calm that it gave me when he walked in the room, you know.
He's a rock.
He's a rock.
Eventually, she was able to do physical rehab. She worked hard, exceeding what therapists asked her to do.
Every day, I said, you know what? I'm getting out of here. I just kept saying that. I just kept saying that. Every day, I'm going home. I'm getting my life back.
I saw a real miracle. I remember her crying, and I said, LaTrice, why are you crying? She said, well, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. So I hugged her, and we prayed, and I said, God's going, I said, he's brought you this far. I said, he didn't bring you this far to leave you. He's going to take care of you. And she smiled, and I never saw her cry again.
I think that when people talk about and say miracles, and they look at me, and if there was ever any doubt in your mind about miracles, you're looking at a walking, living, breathing miracle. And, you know, as you know, there were with the cards, and every card in there said, LaTrice, I'm praying for you. Everywhere I go, when I go out in the store, LaTrice, I prayed for you. One person even stopped me in an aisle of the grocery store and said, do you mind if we just pray right here quickly? And I said, sure. And I told everyone that said that, and I've seen, I said, believe me, I said, I felt each and every prayer. I said, I felt all of those well wishes and that support. And I said, and I hope that one of the things that truly can come out of this is that, yes, I'm one example, but when you hear about other scenarios, situations, and no matter what's going on in your personal life or your family, I want you to dig deep down, and that same belief, that same prayer that you sent for me, let's send up for them as well. And I hope I continue to be a blessing and to continue to do a good job for our viewers and for Channel 3, and just to continue doing what I was doing, to continue telling the stories of people here in the Tennessee Valley. David Carroll is here with me now, and who did that great story along with with Lee in helping me to tell my story.
Well, and on behalf of all of us who watch you and love you, thanks for allowing us to be a part of that story and to hear your story. You know, sometimes due to time limitations, you don't get to talk to everybody you'd like to in a story like that. And you heard from LaTrice's dad, James, who's really close to our hearts and such a terrific guy. Let's talk about your brother a little bit. Marcus pitched in too.
Oh my gosh, Marcus is awesome. Marcus, that's my big brother, and I will tell you, he was up there, exactly, AJ and Flower Girl, and it was one of those, Marcus was up there that day with my dad. They actually ended up coming in separate cars. My dad said he had called Marcus, and my dad and my aunt came in one vehicle, and Marcus came up in another, and he was here for the next few weeks with me. And I will tell you, it was one of the ones that he was right there to help my dad and to guide him through the process, whatever was going on. He was there to, you know, say how many visitors I could have, what they were going to do next. He was there to keep the family informed and just kind of really to be that rock for my dad, and everything I needed. He was right there when I woke up. I remember him being there when I first started to eat and helping me get the food together so that I could eat it, and he would cut it up for me, so yes.
Wow, and you know, talking about the men in your life, of course, we've seen some pictures of AJ
Oh,
there too.
yeah.
What a guy.
I call him my sunshine. They're S-O-N-shine, and so, you know, it really is. I'm so proud of him because you saw there on his high school graduation, but then after the time I just, as we said, just dropped him off for college. So, and there it is right there, that picture of me hugging him, leaving in his room. And for them to have to go up there, a deacon from my church, Deacon Bill Spite, had to go up there that night along with AJ's friends, KJ and Carlton, and pick him up from school and at ETSU and bring him back home. So yes, you know, they were there, and it really was. And then he came home every weekend and with his friends, and one of his good friends, Allison, would come home with him and some more of his friends, and they would be here just about every weekend to see me, and he still managed to do well that semester. And so I'm just really proud of him. You know, they said it was tough for him that first time seeing me, as you could imagine. It took a lot. And, you know, I also want to say thank you to one of my dear friends, Daryl, who you met, who was there like by my bedside every day too, and with my dad and my brother, and just, you know, the support. Even when I was sleeping, I just still had that, and I would wake up and look over there and see them. And that just made a huge difference, yeah.
The men in LaTrice's life are just angels. They
wonderful. Really are.
And speaking of AJ, you know, we didn't get to interview him for the story because he was busy in class.
Yes, exactly.
But he did send a little message.
Mom, we are so happy you are finally back to work. Everyone missed seeing you on TV, including me. We are so proud of how strong you are and how strong you've been throughout this whole process. I know your coworkers and your viewers are glad to have you back brightening up every Wednesday. Welcome back, Mom. I love you.
I'm glad AJ got to be on our special too.
Yes, I am too. Thank you, AJ. I love you, son. Thanks for that surprise, DC.
All right.
Well, coming up on my journey to recovery, I sat down with the doctors and nurses at Erlanger Medical Center who helped save my life.
You were sick. You were probably the most critically ill patient in the hospital. Everybody made a judgment decision, and it worked out remarkably. I remember the first time you came back after being in the hospital, I didn't even recognize you.
The ICU staff and nurses will share more about what happened that day I entered the emergency room. That's coming up next.
Welcome back, LaTrice! Welcome back, LaTrice!
We are so happy LaTrice is back and sharing her story. Pulmonary embolisms can be deadly, and while some can be traced to family history, there are also some things that put you at a higher risk. Being inactive for long periods of time, like road trips, long flights, or a sedentary lifestyle. Smoking, recent surgery, or a broken bone. Taking birth control pills or hormone replacement therapy. Being overweight. With almost all of the major risk factors, there are things you can do to mitigate your risk. So take a look at these and see what you can change in your life.
I can't say enough about the firefighters and medical team of EMTs, emergency room staff, doctors, and ICU trauma nurses who helped save my life. They are truly the best anyone could ask for. But not only are they incredible medical professionals, but their level of compassion and care definitely makes a difference. Getting back to this point wasn't easy.
I remember the first time you came back after being in the hospital, I didn't even recognize you because it was such a profound difference.
I love you.
In addition to a miracle, I had a lot of help.
You were one of those people that I was like, man, if we can get this lady back, she is going to be an amazing story.
It started out as a typical Sunday. I was getting ready for church, and the next thing I knew, I found myself on my kitchen floor. I looked up and the room was spinning. I wasn't sure what was going on. I grabbed my cell phone and called one of my good friends, Deidre, who kept me on the line and called 911. She and her family were soon at my home, along with firefighters and EMT. From there, things get fuzzy, and I don't remember much about the next 3 weeks.
I don't think you remember how sick you were. You don't remember that your family really was there.
I didn't really remember, so I wanted to sit down with the medical team who helped save my life. Seeing them and hearing from them was both surreal and very emotional. The trauma ER staff was the first to see me that day.
I was down there actually seeing a different patient, and I got pulled in by one of the ER nurses going, hey, there's a really, really sick lady in 17. Can you go lay eyes on her? I said, absolutely.
So he did. A CAT scan showed there was tons of blood in my abdomen.
We got you back to the ER, we fired massive blood resuscitation, and that's my job as well. We started that up, and you responded very, very well actually to the blood.
But I was still in critical condition.
Your case was sufficiently complicated that when I went to evaluate you, you were actively being, several teams were involved in your care, and there was quite a crowd of people trying to take care of you.
The clock was ticking on what was known as the golden hour.
Particularly after traumatic injuries, if we can get a patient stabilized enough and get them into our care within an hour, we can treat most life-threatening traumatic injuries pretty effectively outside of head injuries.
Thankfully, the ER staff was able to get me stabilized and thought to call in the ECMO team.
ECMO stands for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation.
Simply put, the ECMO machine replaces the function of the heart and lungs.
It was pretty obvious to me at that point that that clot was obstructing the blood flow forward to your lungs, so you had right heart failure from those clots.
I was stabilized enough to undergo surgery. I had a total of 7 surgeries.
We did what's called a damage control procedure. We did everything we could to stop the bleeding.
That first night was touch and go. My family and friends turned to their faith for comfort and guidance.
Then I know she's a private person, but I called everybody and I was like, everybody I knew to pray.
Those prayers were answered. Doctors told my family I'd made it out of a pretty impossible situation.
Praise the Lord.
But I wasn't out of the woods just yet. I was then moved to the trauma ICU where another incredible team took over.
So I touched your stomach and I was like, there was no give. I was like, this is really bad.
But there were signs of hope.
You were following commands pretty quickly after you got to us, like the next day, which is not what we expected.
It was soon time to start physical therapy, something I wasn't prepared for.
Physical therapy started with you, I think, about 3rd week, and at that time, sitting you up for even 5 minutes, I think Tanya and I did, and it was excruciating pain for you. I think you ended up being a little over 65 pounds more than your weight. That much fluid, so you're having to shift your body based on all this weight.
As tough as physical therapy was, nothing was going to stop me from working to get my life back, which included my most important job of all, being a mom.
Never said no. You always had determination, always. And whatever I said we were going to do, you did it.
No matter whether it was a good day or a not so good day, I always tried to smile. And I knew I could count on my amazing support system of family and friends.
And I think your dad and your family just pushing you. I think you had the will anyway, but I think that made a big difference. Daryl was holding your hand. They would spend the night.
Whether it was some of the organizations that I'm involved in or my church, that support made a huge difference to both me and my family.
Everyone was praying and helping us, and we definitely had some shoulders to lean on.
Remaining positive was a big part of my recovery.
Your attitude and motivation played a huge role in your recovery. So, and I do want to say too, one person that you talked about a whole lot, even when you were kind of confused, was Flower Girl.
Yes, I did. You all heard about Flower Girl. There were pictures of Flower Girl in my room.
Each day the staff came into my room, they went above and beyond to make sure that I was not only physically, but mentally and emotionally taken care of as well.
And I remember calling you all my medical angels that night, and just telling you all, you know, you may not realize the impact that you have, the power that you have, but it is truly amazing and awesome.
It's gratifying to see patients come back and visit and go, I had a part in this, and that helps me to keep going as a nurse, because you know there are days that you kind of go, I can't do this anymore, and then it's like seeing you and people that come back, it makes it worth it.
Well, they are incredible there. As you heard from the Erlanger staff, I lost a lot of blood before and during my emergency surgery. Dr. Robert Maxwell told me that a cardiologist placed me on a bypass pump when I was in the emergency room, which stabilized me enough to go into surgery. My major organs were damaged, we suspect, from a fall I had suffered before emergency workers arrived. And surgery was a challenge because of the amount of blood loss.
You were on something that we call the massive transfusion protocol, where the blood bank is just continuously sending up blood products as it pours out of your body, we can replace it. And they were able to look at your blood profile and determine what factors were deficient in your clotting system, and they were able to supplement the massive transfusion protocol with additional blood products that help your blood eventually clot.
Well, as you can imagine, and as he said, I needed a lot of blood that day. And the next time, it could be you or your loved one. That's why it is so important to give blood. Blood donations are used every day to save people of every age, including premature babies, oncology patients, trauma victims, and surgery patients. We never know when an emergency will strike. Okay, you can help save lives by becoming a donor. I'm partnering with the Health and Wellness Ministry at my church, New United Church, and Blood Assurance for an upcoming blood drive and health event. It's on April the 18th at New United Church from 10 until 2. The address is there on your screen. It's 2629 Tunnel Boulevard. You can also find out more information and register at the website, and there it is on your screen. It is bloodassurance.org/New United to go ahead and sign up early for that blood drive that is taking place on April the 18th from 10 until 2. Well, coming up on my journey to recovery, you're going to hear about the healing process as I spent a number of weeks in the ICU.
In our field, we have to work pretty hard, work bad hours sometimes, but when we see a patient go from the profound state of shock and life-threatening condition to now you're back to doing what you do for us, it's very rewarding.
Next, in their own words, you're going to hear a never-before-seen clip of the Erlanger nurses who helped bring me back to health.
Welcome back, LaTrice! Welcome back, LaTrice!
we're grateful for LaTrice's amazing recovery. Pulmonary embolisms are life-threatening, but quick treatment is the best way to increase survival. These are some of the common symptoms: sudden shortness of breath, sharp chest pain frequently when you breathe in deeply, even stopping you from being able to take a deep breath, a cough that produces bloody or blood-streaked sputum. These are some of the other potential symptoms of a pulmonary embolism. You should seek urgent medical attention if you experience unexplained shortness of breath, chest pains, or a cough that produces bloody sputum.
Well, the medical staff at Erlanger all said I looked completely different when they saw me, especially that day of the interview. There had been quite a change since those 54 days that I spent in ICU healing and getting better. In a never-before-seen clip, the nurses talk about what that process was like.
If this lady survives, it's going to have to be because of Jesus Christ. Like, he is going to have to save this lady. She needs divine intervention. And I will do everything I know what to do and work as hard as I possibly can to get her to that point. So when I saw you walk in the door today, I mean, it just kind of floored me, to be honest with you. You looked phenomenal, and you were talking, and to go from someone who is, unconscious, not responsive, and having horrible vital signs and just looking, literally like death, to seeing you today, it's phenomenal. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your fight. I'm so proud of your family.
First time seeing you still with the breathing tube in your throat and on the ventilator, 60 plus pounds of extra fluid on you from just the resuscitation and everything, all that fluid shifting, really still unresponsive, not doing anything in the bed, to that day that you walked back into the ICU right before Christmas, like you were saying. It took me a second to figure out, did we take care of this patient? I don't remember. It's like, you look totally different.
Yeah.
And it's that's kind of one of the things, as we talked about earlier, that at least keeps me going. Because I know that week when you came in, it was you and also another patient that came back, and that was a week that I was being very depressed at work because we had a lot of bad patient outcomes that week. And then when you walked back through that door, it kind of relit that spark of hope that we're actually can restore some people back to the way of their life and actually give them a second chance.
You were 60 pounds heavier, all the fluid, you could barely do that. And seeing you now, to me, you're a walking miracle. That's what you are.
I was there with Jill the first day that you came up to our unit after the OR, and like everyone has said, with your vitals and how much blood products you had to receive, it didn't look good, but seeing you now, it's just incredible. And I think you give us a lot of credit, but you need to give yourself a lot of credit too, because I think that you did a lot too. Your will to live and your spiritual and your mental strength is what got you here as well. So thank you for visiting us, because that's kind of what makes our job, why we do what we do, and keeps us going. So it's very rewarding.
Got to see you was day 2 or 3. You were still really sick, you were on the ventilator, you were on a lot of sedation. And Jill was your nurse that day. And I saw your face and it looked familiar to me. And I remember walking to Jill and saying, Jill, is this Miss LaTrice from Channel 3? And she said yes. And it devastated me. Because honestly, I've watched you ever since I can remember on Channel 3. My mom and I getting up, getting ready for school and stuff in the mornings, that's the news that we watched was Channel 3. So I was like, Jill, I know I don't know her personally, but this is devastating. And I think you're such a huge part of our community, and we all love you very much, and we're all very proud of you. And like Kristen said, you do give us a lot of credit, but you really need to give yourself a lot of credit, and God, of course, because, what you went through was very crucial and very critical. And you pulled through and you have a second chance of life now, but a lot of that is because of the good Lord above and your willingness to want to get better.
I will tell you that it was, someone asked me how did it feel the first time I walked back into the ICU. I think it was around Christmas when I came to see you all. And it was surreal. It really was, because I think if I can explain to you all, for someone who's able like today to walk back out and to walk into normal life, when you feel like sometimes the walls are closing in on you there, and some days were harder than others, and that was just your little world then, and it really was some days, and it did take everything that I had, and I can understand that a patient has, to fight through that, to say that I'm going to get out from beyond these walls and I'm going to be able to walk out of here. So it really was, and then I had forgotten actually, and my son actually pointed out, that's where your room was, Mom. And the first time I saw it, it was empty, that I walked back in there. But I remember being in that room. And some of the difficult days, but then I remember the good days too, of getting better and saying that I'm gonna get out of here. And you all always coming in there with a smile on your face and saying, you can do this. Getting me up, sitting me up, walking. So I just say to each of you again to keep doing that, because you never know which day and when that patient really needs that the most from you all. So keep doing that for your patients, each and every one of them. And for the families too, providing them with that security and that reassurance. Sometimes, as you said, Dakota, good or bad, you know, just knowing and just being there. So, thank you, you all. We are so fortunate in this community to have men and women like all of you. We never want to be here, but if we have to, if a family member has to, it certainly is good to know that you all are here to help take care of us. I just want to say thank you. And I love you guys. And I will never, ever forget what you all did for me. Thank you all so much. And as I said, they are truly my medical angels. You know, after suffering any major health setback or crisis, the road to recovery can be difficult and very challenging. After leaving the ICU, I still had my work cut out for me, and that's where rehab comes in. It was this crucial step that helped me get back to work and get my life back.
I had finally reached my goal and made it out of the trauma ICU.
When I looked at her medical chart, I said, wow, how does this happen to somebody who's so young, who's healthy? You know, before you had come into the hospital, you know, some people had told me about you that you were active, you're busy, you're hardworking.
But it did happen to me. I suffered a blood clot, and I wasn't quite ready to go home.
Nobody planned to be here, and virtually no one.
I certainly didn't, but I found myself at Siskin Rehabilitation Hospital.
I always like to say, the acute care hospital is there to save your life, but our job is to help get your life back.
And that was exactly what I planned to do.
So you already had that sense of recovery behind you already, that you had already come so far and now you were here, and so there was already a certain amount of success driving you forward. But we still had a long way to go, and you knew that as well.
I did know that. And that road to recovery included pushing myself every day.
Typically physical therapy in the morning and in the afternoon, and so they kind of double dip a little bit.
It's a lot, but you have to stay motivated and focused on your goals, no matter how tough the task.
And each day when we walked in the room, even if you were tired, you had a smile on your face, and sometimes it was kind of like okay, let's do it.
Fielder says that's key to trying to make sure patients stay motivated and focused on their goals, no matter how bad things look.
There's a younger gentleman who was working, was pretty active, and had a stroke, and you could just see in his face and talking with him that I'm not supposed to be here.
Asking the question, why?
How am I here? How am I going to do this? And that's a difficult place to be.
Yes, rehab can be a difficult place to be. A good staff and support system play key roles in a patient's success. I know. It certainly made a difference for me.
As we encourage families to stay, they're welcome to stay the night, to be involved in therapy. We do family training with every family, with our therapists, because we know that right now they're our concern, but 2-3 weeks down the road, they're now the family's concern.
Recovery is a process that takes time. You have to celebrate the victories, both big and small.
It was every day, seeing little gains. A lot of times it's harder to measure, but with you it was very nice because every day we could say, we walked further today, we did more of this today.
And a little bit more each day continue to add up to a lot.
You believe that I am getting better and I will continue to get better.
And a big thanks to the staff there at Siskin and all the motivation that they gave me as well. And you know, they talked about they help you get your life back and get back to work where I am now. And I will tell you, when I came back to work, it was really wonderful. It was therapeutic, and the warm welcome I got, I wasn't expecting it. That was very touching that day to see everyone from upstairs and downstairs there in the newsroom welcoming me back. Well, coming up next on my road to recovery, there's a stark contrast to what I look like now to what I look like my first night in the ER.
I honestly thought that it would be, after everything that you had been through, at least a year and a half before you went back to work, so I'm glad to see you're getting back to work.
Well, I was able to recover because of my willingness to live a healthy lifestyle. You'll hear from my trainer at the YMCA. That's coming up.
We are happy to have LaTrice back, and we've all learned from her journey. Now, while there's not much you can do about a family history of pulmonary embolisms, there are things you can do to reduce your risk. Stop smoking, lose weight, exercise regularly when just walking, get up and move around at least every hour whenever you travel. Flex your ankles every 15 to 30 minutes. If you cannot move around, drink lots of water and wear loose fitted clothing when you travel. Wear compression socks and avoid crossing your legs. Now, these steps can't guarantee you won't have a pulmonary embolism. It will reduce your risks.
Well, although it may seem like I'm back in working order, the journey to recovery continues. As you can imagine, I had quite a bit of healing to do, and recovery doesn't happen overnight. I talked with my YMCA trainer about the importance of living a healthy lifestyle. Because the symptoms are similar to other illnesses, diagnosing it can be very challenging.
My Eye on Health reports are not only part of my job, but also part of my mission to help others lead healthy lives.
5 more? Oh, thank you.
I definitely try to practice what I preach. I try to stay active.
Hey guys, hello.
Going to the gym and working out with my trainer has been a big part of my routine for several years.
We did all types of exercises. We always did a full body every time I saw you, and that included running, some weights, and some high intensity interval training. And I think that's what kept you in really good shape.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
At the time, I had no idea just how important staying in shape and healthy would be.
To be able to handle life situations that come when you don't even know they're going to happen. But for many things such as surgeries that are upcoming or any kind of injuries you get, just being fit already helps you recover faster from those types of things.
That was never more important than now. Back in August, I was rushed to the hospital and suffered what we later learned was a pulmonary embolism.
You were sick. You were probably the most critically ill patient in the hospital.
The road to recovery wasn't easy, but I continued to defy the odds. After being in bed for 3 weeks in trauma ICU, getting started on rehab was a challenge.
One of the biggest things is when you aren't moving, you've got all these medical problems going on, and being sedentary can cause even more problems. With your lungs, with your muscles. Our muscles waste really quickly when we don't move.
So I had to get moving, but that was a challenge to say the least. Once I did, my recovery really started to come into focus.
You were just like, recovery time was just like that, so fast. Once that, within a week, you were amazing.
In addition to a miracle, doctors said my fitness played a major role in my survival and healing.
I think the other thing that shouldn't go unmentioned was your good health status. You take care of yourself and we're very healthy, and if you hadn't been in such a good state of health coming into this, I don't know if the outcome would have been as good.
Chances are, it would not have been as favorable.
You looked a whole lot worse on paper than you did in person, and that's a compliment, because to see all that you went through, all the surgeries you went through, all the problems you had, I was blown away at how good you looked.
After completing my outpatient rehab, I went back to the gym.
When you came in, I was very surprised at how far along you've came based on what you went through, and you're definitely strong, and we're going to get you back to where you used to be before.
There you go. Doctors and fitness experts say it's important to stress the importance of staying active, eating a healthy diet, not smoking or drinking alcohol in excess. They say reach out if you need help taking that first step.
And that's important for all people to know that we're here to help them get through those struggles.
Once you take that first step, it's up to you to make the commitment and stick with it. It's not always easy or fun, but remember, it's your health. It's your life.
And so I didn't have to worry about when we weren't together. You were always working out and doing things on your own.
And I am back at the gym. It would not have been an easy recovery had it not been for my family and my friends. You heard earlier how my good friend Deidre stayed on the line with me as she called 911. She and my other friends, Tanya and Yolanda, stayed with me at the hospital for days to come, and that really helped the healing process.
LaTrice called me that Sunday morning. We were getting ready for church. We had a program at our church involving our sorority, and when I got the call, I really couldn't understand what she was saying. I knew it was her because her name popped up on my phone, but she was saying, "Help me," and I didn't realize, I couldn't even make out what was going on. And I remember asking her again, I said, "LaTrice, is it LaTrice?" I just kept calling her name, and she kept saying, "Help me." And by this time I started screaming to my son and my husband, "Something is wrong with LaTrice." And I remember telling my son, I was still trying to talk to her, and I could. Then it was a silence on the phone. So I just told him call 911 because I didn't know if someone had broken her house. I didn't know if she was held hostage. I just didn't know what was going on. But I knew when I did hear her voice, the tone of it, I could barely make out what she was saying or even if that was really her, because it was such a low, helpless voice. And just instinct, I knew something was wrong.
And in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe she didn't eat, she got dizzy, she fell down the steps. He's like, well, you know, we'll figure out where she's going and then we'll meet her there at the hospital. I didn't have any idea of how sick she was until we got to the hospital.
And seeing how really, really sick she was and knowing that we need to call her dad. And I remember that phone call, making that call to her dad, which was very hard, you know, but we knew that he needed to, he's in Nashville. And then we also started thinking about AJ and like her son and like, okay, we need to make sure that all the family knows how serious everything is. And
I know she's a private person, but I called everybody and I was like, everybody I knew to pray, I was like, we need to pray. I just didn't even say who it was. I was just like, I have a really sick friend. I called all my friends, everybody, my friends out of state. I was like, we have to pray because I have a friend who's really sick and I don't know that she's gonna make it.
Yeah, praise the Lord. Oh my God.
I don't know anybody who could survive what she did. You know, it's the grace of God.
It truly was, but great support system and great friends there. Well, still to come, I wanted to take the time to thank the viewers who sent me cards. Yeah, loads of cards on my road to recovery.
I know how it is. If you're sick and you get a card, it just helps you along. And prayers too.
I love all. Oh, how sweet. I got to talk with two really great viewers who sent me some well wishes and special cards.
Steve Freer with the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. We've missed you. Welcome back, LaTrice.
We are so thankful LaTrice's recovery has gone so well. Her life was saved in those first hours by a talented medical team, technology, and blood donors. It took an awful lot of blood to save LaTrice. You can help save lives by becoming a donor. Go to bloodassurance.org to find out more about donating or to make an appointment or be part of the blood drive organized by LaTrice's friends and family on April 18th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at New United Church on Tunnel Boulevard.
You know, I can't say enough about the outpouring of support and what it meant to me, my family, and my recovery. From my church family at New United to a number of organizations that I'm involved in, you know, when it came to your compassion and your kindness, it meant the world to me and to my family. So for my family and my close friends who were by my bedside, to those who delivered food and sent cards, I wanted to say thank you to each and every person who helped during my time of need. My father talks about the amazing support that he and my family received while I was in the hospital.
We just continued to pray and just all sorts of support from her church, family, her sorority, her links, her Jack and Jill organizations. They were just so tremendous and helpful, and everyone was praying and helping us, and we definitely had some shoulders to lean on, and we were just thankful that we were able to be in that type of situation with what was going on with LaTrice. It was a long struggle. Many days we would go up. She didn't know we were there. It wasn't easy at all, but we knew we had the Lord on our side. I'm a person of faith, and I believe that God, I don't believe, I know that He does hear and answer prayer. And I was praying, all the family was praying, all the church family, and all of the people throughout Greater Chattanooga and Northern Georgia and other places were just tremendous in their calls, their cards, and the whole thing was just a blessing for what had happened. And you know, regardless of how serious things are, there's always something that brings out the best in you, makes you stronger. And I think after the maybe the beginning of the third week, God told me that she's going to be all right. It's just going to take time. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a lot of credit to the nursing staff and the doctors. They were just so dedicated and protective of her, and I could call anytime at night. Sometimes I would come home and I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would call and they would go over everything. And I got this call, I think probably after the beginning of the fourth week, and Jill, who was one of the head nurses that really took good care of her, called and said, she called me James. She said, James, you're not going to believe this, but LaTrice has gotten up and we're walking her. So I said, what? So I immediately got dressed and went there. And it was just amazing to see how she had fought back and was able to accomplish some of the things physically that she accomplished. And one of the things in the back of my mind was that I hope she doesn't get depressed with her situation, because she was beginning to realize where she was, what had transpired, and what her limitations were at that time. But I don't think that ever happened. I remember her crying, and I said, LaTrice, why are you crying? She said, well, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. So I hugged her and we prayed, and I said, God's going to, I said, He's brought you this far. I said, He didn't bring you this far to leave you. He's going to take care of you. And she smiled, and I never saw her cry again. I saw a real miracle. Chief surgeon who did the 14, 16-hour surgery said to me, said, Mr. Currie said, 95% of the people, if they had to go through what she has gone through, would not be here today. It hasn't been easy, but I've had so much support also.
My dad, of course, was awesome, and boy, and to all those who gave us so much support, thank you so much. It is so appreciated, truly appreciated. Well, our viewers certainly made a difference in my recovery. They will often say, you know, you're like family. And guess what? We love to hear that, because I know personally, I don't take that for granted, being invited into your home each day, because you have choices. And when you choose to invite us in, I say thank you. And you know what? That's what I want to say to all of our viewers. Thank you.
Many of you continue to ask about our dear friend and co-worker LaTrice Currie. She remains in the hospital after a medical emergency.
Once the station knew more about what had happened to me and that I'd made it out of the woods, they let viewers know that I had suffered a medical emergency and wouldn't be on air for a while. Our wonderful viewers wanted to know what they could do.
hopefully soon LaTrice can open those cards and read all your wonderful best wishes, thoughts, and prayers, and just keep that positive energy coming.
Boy, did they respond. The cards kept coming. They made me laugh, some even made me cry, but I was touched and moved by all the heartfelt messages and wanted to say thank you to everyone. I even made a few stops.
I want to hear a big SBA welcome for Miss Currie.
The elementary students at Silverdale Baptist Academy let me know they were thinking about me with these special cards they made that had sweet messages to get well soon.
You all drew some of the nicest pictures on there. You said, "Get well, Miss Currie. We're praying for you. God loves you." And I just thought, how beautiful is this that we have young people and we have children and we have students and kids who are doing this.
Children can truly set an example for all of us.
So I just want to leave you again with the absolute biggest, heartfelt thank you.
I was there to thank them, but I also got quite the surprise.
To speak, oh my gosh. First of all, you're just too cute. You're just too cute.
This card from a Chattanooga viewer said, "Your positive attitude, fighting spirit, and unwavering courage never cease to amaze me. Despite all you've been through, you never lose faith, never give up, and always find a reason to smile." Well, our viewers definitely gave me a reason to smile.
I'm so happy that it touched your heart. When I heard that you were ill, I said, I've got to send her a card.
I felt the love when I walked in.
So I was so happy that it touched your heart and that you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Because I prayed for you every night too, and every day.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do, because as I said, those prayers were felt.
This card was from a sweet North Georgia viewer who said, "I know you're glad to be back home. We can all breathe a sigh of relief." It was signed, your #1 fans, Ed and Janice Lawson. Hi, Miss Lawson. Come on. Hi. Miss Lawson said she simply wanted to let me know that she was thinking about me and praying for me.
Well, I had to let you know you were missed.
Thank you so much.
You have been so missed. No, you know, I met you at a women's expo.
Okay.
In Chattanooga. And you were so warm and so kind.
Thank
and
you.
That's
I hope I was.
Ladies and gentlemen, look who's back. LaTrice Currie.
I am so happy to be here at our annual Share Your Christmas food drive.
Miss Lawson says she had been keeping up with my progress and knew I was getting better when she turned on the TV and saw me at Share Your Christmas back in December.
I'm so happy to be here.
And I said, oh, she's back. She is back. She's looking good.
I did. I made a visit there, and I think you're talking about in December probably for Share Your Christmas.
Yes.
That brief visit was my first time being seen on air since my life-threatening health emergency in August. I was glad to be able to take part in a station event to help serve our community.
I care about this community. And
the community cares about you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, you know what? People like you, Miss Lawson, make my job so much easier and so much better. And
praise the Lord. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Miss Lawson, who has a green thumb, gave me a flower to remember her by as I got ready to leave.
And count your blessings.
Yes,
Water it.
yes, I am.
A live little girl.
Oh my, you're so cute. Oh, I love you, and I'm going to keep my flower alive. All of these stories can be found inside the WRCB app. Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.